My name is Kaylin Ingram, and I am a creative. Now, I just used an adjective as a noun, so what exactly does it mean to be a creative? Artists, photographers, designers, painters, all might refer to themselves as a creative. But I personally think it's a term that us right-brain people use when there's just not one particular thing that we do for a living. So like most creatives, I have a lot of endeavors. I co-own a creative agency where we build brands and logos for startups. I paint murals on big walls for businesses in my hometown. And I wrote and illustrated a children's book about loving who you are. So basically, I love to create things. And it's actually on this campus, at this very art school, where I really first learned how to create. I graduated from the graphic design program where I learned my love of digital art. But what nobody told me was that we would have to take some fine arts classes along the way. So sculpture, sketch class, I got a little in over my head. But I did end up creating some pretty epic things in my short time here at the university. In the name of being humble, in sculpture class, I created this stunning self-portrait out of wire and ribbon, to which the whole entire class laughed. We named her Molly and took her out on the town. On the flip side, I did create a rather successful public art piece called The Positive Soapbox, where people had to shout their good news from a megaphone in the school plaza on this cool wooden box, which the campus police actually ended up shutting that one down because apparently you can't use megaphones on campus. But it was in college that I really learned how to create, and moreover, to create for the benefit of other people. You see, that Positive Soapbox project kind of went like campus viral, and I got totally hooked on this feeling of creating to make other people happy. But literally in the same breath, that project actually received a bad grade because the professor thought it was too BuzzFeed. So here I was, this young, impressionable, creative on the rise, learning that I could create to get a good grade, or I could create to win approval, or to be valued by others. Not once really stopping to think about what it was that Kaylin actually wanted to create. Now, while I'm no longer making wire dolls and getting steady B's in fine arts classes, I find that in my current work, in a way, I still create to seek validation. And maybe you have felt this way too. That is, what I create good enough for you? And sometimes in my head, that translates to, am I good enough for you? About 2 years ago, I realized that this sneaky pattern could be found in every little piece of my life. The relationship I was in, the jobs I had taken, the people that I surrounded myself with. Nothing was inherently wrong with them, but something felt deeply wrong with me. And it's that I was living my life, to ensure that I was good enough for everybody else except for myself. Now, this isn't all that novel of an idea. It's a very common phenomenon called people-pleasing, but it got me thinking. If I can create all this epic stuff for everybody else, I wonder what I could possibly create for myself. Now, the first thing that came to mind was my life. We can create whatever life we want. Allegedly, we can control that. So let's start there. And thus began this deep dive of self-help books, therapy, manifestation, a journey of cutting things out that didn't feel right. So if it wasn't a hell yes, it was lovingly a no. And I had to let go of some people, some relationships, some opportunities, and say yes to others. And I slowly started to chip away at this beautiful masterpiece that I'm still currently actively invested in and working on creating, and that is my life. Now, Raise your hand if you consider yourself to be a creative. Okay, so we got some. Some of us consider not to be creative. And you might be thinking, well, this is all fine and good for you, Miss Creativity, but I can't draw to save my life. Well, need we refer to Molly the scary ribbon doll again? I don't think so. We can put her down now, yes. You see, we are actually all creative. It's just a matter of whether or not we use the creativity that we inherently have. It's a muscle that you need to stretch. It's a skill that you can fine-tune. But you don't need to be making fine art to be considered creative. Rick Rubin is a famous American record producer who shaped the world of hip-hop, and he worked with a wide range of artists and creators, from Run DMC to Tom Petty and even Kesha. And in his book on creativity, he describes creativity as bringing something into existence that simply was not there before. So that could be a conversation, a note to a friend, rearranging your furniture, or even a new route home to avoid a traffic jam. The truth is, we are all creating all the time. So with this new definition of creativity, how many of you would say you're pretty dang creative? All right, like every hand should be up. We created our outfits this morning. We created breakfast. We're getting there. We get in our heads about creating because we're not creating masterpieces or fine art, works of grandeur. So let's refer to one of the most famous masterpieces of all time, Michelangelo's The David. This masterpiece started out as a chunk of marble that was rejected by not one but two artists due to inconsistencies in its grain. So let's just say the rock had some flaws. But Michelangelo took the project on. And it is said that when asked how he created such a masterpiece, that he replied, "It was easy. I just took away everything that was not the David." Now, I think about this quote often because it's in a lot of the podcasts I listen to. But if we're creating this masterpiece that is our lives, what might we need to take away? Or what might we need to remove to leave behind the very best version of ourselves? Now, right now, when you look at your life, can you think of some pieces or people or habits that you might need to chip away to leave behind your David? Now, I want you to hold that there for a sec. Maybe come back to it later. You can sleep on it. No need to take a sledgehammer to your David and cut away everything and everyone that you once loved. But think about this, and think about yourself as the creator, as the artist, okay? Because when we blame others and when we blame circumstances, we're actually giving away all of our power in any situation. But when we take accountability as the creator, like an artist would, we give all the power back to ourselves. And we start making things out of thin air, art, opportunities, connections for ourselves rather than for others. So now that we know that we are in fact creating our lives, that we are the artists, I would say it's very important to make sure that what we are creating is what we actually want, right? Not what society wants, not what culture wants, not your parents or your lover or your friends, but what lights you up. Like, really ask yourself tonight, what lights me up? And when you take the time to get still, so I've heard, you can even ask your body, do you physically lean into something or lean away? Does your heart rate speed up or slow down? Are you naturally excited about an opportunity or a little bit repulsed? Now, this feeling, this gut instinct, what Jamie Kern-Lima calls your inner knowing, and what Eckhart Tolle calls your being, that's you. The universe, the Holy Spirit, your Buddha nature, energy. We have so many ways of explaining very similar concepts, but it's you. It's your you-ness, because you're the artist, you're the creator. You know deep, deep down if something actually fits into the vision of your life or not. So that thing that we put over here that you've been thinking about this whole time, I don't have to tell you what it is. You're already thinking about it now. I want us to take a moment right now for you to pause and ask your body. Don't overthink it. Just listen. Is it a hell yes? Or is it a loving no? Now, it may not be the answer you wanted to hear. And if you're a people pleaser like me, it probably was not the answer that you wanted to hear. But it may be exactly the answer that you needed to hear. So why then, if we can ask our body at any time, why do we as creatives outsource all of our creative decision-making power? Why do we ask for every single opinion but our own? It's because there's this big, loud external voice that's sometimes even louder than our own inner resolve, and it comes in the form of a timeline, and it goes like this. You grow up, you go to school, you date, you graduate, you get married, get a job, get a house, have babies, retire, and die. And that's the dream, baby. It's everywhere. You would be a fool. You would be a fool not to want that, right? It's baked into every advertisement of a family running around at a barbecue. It's baked into all the text threads with the girlies about who's going to get engaged next. And it's baked into each passing holiday conversation with your great Aunt Jean about all of the things you've accomplished this year. But what happens if you literally didn't accomplish anything that year? Or what happens if you dared to do something different and off the beaten path? Well, this is where I think the rest of the population can really turn to Gen Z. Because this generation is doing things differently and on its own terms. Maybe it is trading the house and mortgage for van life. Or maybe it is trading a traditional 9-to-5 job for an influencer career path. But they're doing things differently, and it doesn't really surprise me because this is the most creative generation. 63% of Gen Z claim to have a creative activity that they do every single day, and 78% claim that that creative activity actually helps them in their work and academic studies. And even in their outlook on something as prominent and effervescent as social media, 47% of Gen Z claim that social media actually makes them more creative, as opposed to only 30% of older populations who share that opinion. So as it turns out, creativity, or even perceived creativity, might be the very thing that helps us take back our creative decision-making power and start creating a life that we actually want to live. So listen to your gut instinct, stop asking for everybody else's opinions, and start creating again. Now, I must warn you that while I have been on my journey creating my masterpiece, my David, my perfect version of Kaylin, I think of this woman who wakes up at 5 a.m. and drinks a ton of water and has a rockin' business and a rockin' body and is like totally the bomb. And I think of her all the time because I'm creating her. I love her. She's my David, my masterpiece. I'm in it. But there's one thing I haven't been able to get past. And it's that when I look in the mirror at the work in progress, the chunk of marble that's grainy and half chipped, yet on its way, and I look at her, I don't love her yet. I don't think she's worthy yet. Yet. That word, that teensy little word, is so dangerous because while it can keep you ambitious, it can also keep you longing for this next version of you that's only going to keep evolving. But there's a beautiful thing about evolving, about metamorphosis, if you don't miss it. And it's that just like a butterfly isn't better than a caterpillar or a chrysalis or an egg, Dream Kaylin, she's not better than me. Just like I would never say that I was better than I was at the age of 5. We just are. We are just being. We are human beings. We're beautiful in every single stage. Michelangelo would never have created his masterpiece if he didn't accept it for where it was in the beginning. And we need to learn how to do the same. When we work on the hard things, self-love and worthiness, guys, the other things come easy. Clarity of what you actually want comes easy, and the ability to step out and actually try and create it comes even easier. In fact, the whole entire universe does this cute little thing where it starts conspiring to make it easier because you're finally living for you. Now I want you all to close your eyes. We're going to do a little meditation and take a deep breath. You're in a room, and in the middle of the room is this big, giant stone. It's got chips, and it's got flaws, but it's beautiful, and it's yours. Now, into the room walks a kid with a twinkle in their eye. That kid is you. Next, an older person walks in, and sure, they have wrinkles and beautiful, beautiful smile lines, but you can tell that's also you. Now, the 3 of you, each with a tool in your hand, slowly walk towards the stone. You start chipping, you start creating. You're creating your life. Not the future dream life, not the past resume life, but right now in this seat, this version of you. You are creating a life that the younger version of you gets to say, wow, that's me. And something that the older version of you is so, so incredibly proud of. Now I want you to stop and open your eyes. Wherever you are at in that process, and whatever stage your masterpiece is in, I want you to walk out of this room today loving and accepting that masterpiece. Come back to it often, check in on it often, and each day, with every decision, day in and day out, keep chipping away to create a life, a masterpiece that you learn to love. Thank you.